We got games launching and games just around the corner. Let's talk. What up, viewers? What up? What up? Calc Soups here, and today is Friday, February 9th, and that means it's time for a quick recap of the week in video game news. Helldivers 2 launched this week. I know lots of games are launching. The game's starting to get, the year's starting to get a lot more rolling. Now that we're into the second month, I guess. But yeah, Helldivers 2 is launched this week. It is the sequel we've been waiting for almost a decade now. Helldivers 1 launched in 2015, although I don't think a lot of people played it until I think it went free on PlayStation Plus later that year. But Helldivers 1 was a great cooperative top-down shooter, and I hear that other than a slightly rough launch, which is, I guess, semi-positive in that their servers are starting to crash under the pressure of so many people wanting to play their game, but I hear that's already starting to be handled. So yeah, Helldivers 2 launched this week. No Metacritic in yet. I know that they're still kind of rolling in, and it's a hard game to kind of tack down what the full experience is, and people are playing through it. So I did read that it is the biggest release for a Sony game on PC. So their PC strategy is working. But that I don't know that it's quite apples to apples, considering it was comparing itself to God of War, which launched like 2 years later on PC. So day and date launches I bet are going to be more equally distributed amongst the platforms than games that are launched delayed on a separate platform. But I digress. But I am looking forward to playing Helldivers 2. I'm already running around and shooting people in Suicide Squad with my friends, but I really want to dive in and accidentally shoot my friends while playing Helldivers 2. Next week, we got a game I'm very excited for. Banishers Ghosts of New Eden. I know it's quite a mouthful, but it is brought to you by Don't Nod, the studio behind Life is Strange, and Vampire, and Remember Me, and Tell Me Why. Usually very narrative focused, but I had to remind myself this week that they also made Vampire, and so seeing the reason I'm talking about it is we got to see a lot of gameplay this week, and seeing the gameplay as like full action RPG, and you're switching between two characters, and there's a spirit realm and a regular realm. It seemed very like in depth, and so I was like, oh, this is the same developers that did Life is Strange, but I had to remember that they also did Vampire, which was actually a pretty good action adventure game. Again, mostly the story is why you're there for a lot of Don't Nod games, but the combat seemed pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to Banishers Ghosts of New Eden dropping next week. Tencent is bringing Elden Rings to mobile phones. I don't know how many phones are going to be broken with while people are trying to play a Dark Souls game on their phone, but I bet Nerd Rage is going to crunch a lot of iPhones. So I bet Apple's probably pretty excited for it. But yeah, I don't think we have more details on it than just there is one in development. But I think I could see myself playing. I would give it a try, but I'm just not for the full like twin stick gameplay on a phone. Just not quite my bag yet, but I could always play it on like an accessory, like the Amazon Luna controller or something like that. Moving right along, Microsoft found, well, I guess not. Microsoft didn't find itself in hot water this week, but they're getting in a little bit of trouble. So the 2,000 or so employees that got laid off just a couple weeks ago is actually starting to make the FTC re-go over re-go over the case that they held against the the merger between Activision and Blizzard and Microsoft. The FTC said that during the court hearings they were talking like this was going to be a vertical merger, and for the most part the two companies were going to remain separate. I think that I'm surprised that held up in court, because I think a horizontal merger. They thought this was going to be a horizontal merger where the two companies would be separate but equal and all that kind of stuff. I think I'm surprised that that held up in court because this was always going to be a vertical merger. Microsoft is buying another studio to add to their giant umbrella, and any kind of redundancies in finance or other parts of the studio, like that was obviously going to fall out, and games were going to get cut. So I'm surprised that the FTC kind of bought it the first time around, but now that this has happened, they're starting to think like, hey, maybe we need to go to appeals courts and talk about what's going on here. Why did 2,000 people lose their jobs if this was supposed to be a horizontal merger, which they do have Phil Spencer saying on record. So yeah, I'm surprised it held up the first time around, but I could see why it's causing problems now. So obviously 2,000 people aren't going to get their jobs back if this gets appealed or something, but maybe it's. And I also don't think that like a year down the line after they've gone through the appeals, they're just gonna like, oh wait, no, you're two separate companies again, because like the damage is going to have been done. So I'm not sure what they do from that point, but they're kind of raising their finger and being like, hey, wait a minute, you said so. Yeah, hopefully there's some good that comes out of double checking the cases, but the damage has already been done. Speaking of the damage that has been done, it was pretty interesting to see this week. Someone laid out a chart of just the 16,000 employees of companies that have lost their jobs in the gaming industry since January of last year. And 2,000 of which were just in the last month. But yeah, it was quite interesting to see. You could kind of see where the big like 2K ones and another big company like job losses were. So it was just kind of interesting. Like there's just points in line. Points on a table in a line that look that just kind of represent people losing their jobs, and there was 16,000 points on that line. So it was just a really staunch visual for, and it even had like this line or this like testimonies from specific dots of like people who are represented who lost their jobs working on Activision Blizzard project or even smaller dev projects. So yeah, just kind of a grim reminder of gosh, how many people have lost their jobs in the last 12-13 months. So feel free to check that out down below in the description. Speaking of big kind of partnerships, Disney and Fortnite, or I guess more importantly, Disney and Epic, are partnering up after Disney invested $1.5 billion in Epic. Looks like Disney's going to get its own Fortnite world or something like that. I'm not quite sure what we're going to get out of it. We have Star Wars and Marvel characters in Fortnite, so I'm not quite sure like what more is being added, but it seems more like Disney's going to have its own section. So you're going to have like Battleground and Rhythm Game and Car Game, and now the Disney game, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of like what I'm getting from the images I saw. So, but pretty big investment. So yeah, we got to see what Disney exclusive thing's going to happen. Also, some of my friends in the industry were talking about the reverse. Like, are we going to get Fortnite at Disneyland? I don't know that I quite think that was the purpose, but hey, maybe that is going to happen, which is going to be pretty weird. But I digress. I'm going to move on. Halo Season 2 had dropped this week. And to celebrate, Game Pass subscribers get a free 30-day Paramount Plus trial. This is the same thing they did for Season 1, where if you had Game Pass, you get a short Paramount Plus trial so you can watch it. I'm hoping to use that 30 days to catch up on Season 1 because I didn't get really far in it. But yeah, I'll also be able to catch up on the first couple episodes of Halo Season 2. So looking forward to checking that out sometime soon. Moving on to actual games that are actually launching. A game that I've been excited for a long time. It's been on my Steam wish list. It finally dropped last week, called Hellcard. And it checks a lot of boxes that I like. So listen to this list: cooperative, deck building, dungeon crawler. So those are 3 things that I enjoy doing. You can throw fantasy in there as well. But yeah, I'm always looking for games to play with my friends. I think a cooperative deck builder in and of itself, is already like a really unique concept and something I want to get my hands on and play with friends. But the dungeon crawler aspect also looks cool too. So you build out your deck. Your deck's getting stronger. Your allies are getting stronger. You fight harder and harder enemies. Yeah, it looks like a really interesting game that I could get to sit down and play with a couple of my strategically minded deck building friends. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking out Hellcard, and if you are too, I'll have a link down below in the description. We've already had Pal World selling 20 million copies. We've had Enshrouded selling another million copies. Is there enough room in the market for another survival crafting, open world crafting game? Well, I guess we're gonna find out because Nightingale is just around the corner, and it's a steampunk, sci-fi, fantasy sci-fi steampunk open world crafting survival game that you can play with your friends, and that launches on February 22nd. So just a couple of weeks away. I know that I've already turned out a Pow World, and but people are still, there's probably still a large community of them playing Pow World. I know that Enshrouded kind of fell under the radar. Still sold a million units, but for those Dark Souls survival crafters out there that want to be a little bit more survival nitty gritty with it, as opposed to the kind of the Pokemon style Pow World survival aspect. So I'm curious what this is going to do to be different and distinguish itself. What Nightingale is going to do to distinguish itself from a couple other survival crafting games that have already been out there. But the steampunk aesthetic might get it some way there, but it's going to need deeper mechanics and I've had it on my list for quite some time, so I hope it doesn't pass me by. But and I do remember like the worlds that you go to are going to be really unique, and so yeah, I'm excited for Nightingale and really looking forward to it since me and my friends didn't really latch on to Pow World. Last but not least, after 7 years of development, the developers behind Dead Cells are moving on to a different project. So we will no longer get any more Dead Cells DLC. There's so many that I haven't even touched that I'm just surprised just looking over the history of the 7 years of development for Dead Cells. It's genre defining Dead Cells. Just reflecting on it, like how big, with Dead Cells and Hollow Knight all dropping like the same summer, I think back in 17 or yeah 17, like that was just the games of the summer were just the roguelike Metrovania games. So sad to see that it will no longer get development, but there's plenty of DLC for me to check out that if I wanted to ever jump back into it. But I am excited to see what the developers move on to next. So hopefully they can break another genre, or what is Dead Cells 2? What do you do in Dead Cells 2 that you haven't already done? Or what do you do with a new game, and is it going to be just as genre defying? So they do have some pretty big some pretty big shoes to fill, even though they are their own shoes. The metaphor starts to break down after that point. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next for the developers of Dead Cells. That's it for this week. Let me know if you feel I forgot anything down below in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this content, and I hope you have a super day. I hope you have a super weekend, and I hope you have a super day. Bye!